especially I've met so many people who are coming to my panel, heroes of the runway, high fashion storytelling and character design. What's up, y'all? Yes. I am your androgynous android late night DJ, Nathan Blades, aka the Neon Caster. Just a disclaimer up front, I am actually not a sewist or an illustrator, but considering I had my kind of like genderqueer fashion awakening looking at a Jean-Paul Gaultier fashion exhibit, I'm not kidding, that I generally do a dabbling in sewing and illustration, and that basically all of my tabletop RPGs that I design and all of my miniature painting I do is very much inspired by fashion and fashion subcultures. Hopefully that means that I can talk to you about one of my hyperfixations for the next 40 minutes or so. What we're getting into today, yes, we'll be going over the world of high fashion or haute couture, depending on how bad our French pronunciations are. We're going to be going over the idea of how clothes can tell stories, looking at a handful of different games, including some case studies with audience interaction. As we kind of see some ideas and then actually test some ideas. Talking about, establishing a faction through fashion, and just generally looking at some really fucking nice outfits. So, our first question, what the fuck is haute couture? Everybody, I swear like H&M says that haute couture at this point. Like, what does that even mean? Essentially, it is French for high sewing or high dressmaking. It's the art of making bespoke clothes to a really high detail and standard, and it has to be those two things. So obviously if it's made for a wide range of people and not one specific person, or if it's made for one specific person but it's not done with particularly high finesse, it's not necessarily haute couture. Initially, actually, the term was dictated by like French law. Like the government decided who, as an atelier, was haute couture, and there was a whole bunch of restrictions on how many people could be working at the atelier and where it was, and so on and so forth. But fortunately, that restriction is no longer established. It's no longer sparkling clothes. If it's in a different region. Good, that joke landed. I love that. Basically, any fashion label or individual that is making bespoke clothes with high detail is haute couture, which means that to a degree, cosplay can be haute couture depending on what you're doing. Yes, I mean absolutely. The effort that y'all put into the costumes that you wear at cons can be considered haute couture. You're all fashionistas, congratulations. In addition to that, the other side of that is ready to wear, which is essentially clothes that are made to be maybe in a different form, but mass-produced and available to the general public. That isn't necessarily to say that ready-to-wear runways aren't elaborate. We have two examples here. We have George Chakra in their Autumn-Winter 2025, where this is clearly an haute couture piece and that you are not going to see this at Gap. I mean, I wish you could, that would be astounding. But it's really specifically kind of like wearable art, rather than something that is designed to be very obvious in how it could translate to a clothes that people could wear. On the other side of this, matière fécale, which does actually translate to fecal matter, that is the whole deal of being provocative. But even though the clothes that this model is wearing, yes, sorry, shit stirrers, truly. Even though that they are wearing clothes that are obviously ones that you can easily envision somebody being able to buy and wear, the way that they have styled it, the fact that there is like a pearl ball gag that this model is wearing, astounding. This entire line is actually one that came out, I want to say, genuinely a week and a half ago. The idea of it is like making fun of the 1%. There's a bunch of models with like dollar bills as blindfolds as they're like staggering down the runway. Deeply ironic that haute couture is having things to say about class. When you do the thing ironically, you're still actually doing the thing. But still, even things that are ready to wear can still be astounding inspiration. Now, because all of you have come here and are very excited to see high fashion, you've probably seen some runway photography in the past. Good, I'm seeing nods, excellent, excellent. A lot of you have maybe heard of Alexander McQueen. Cool, absolutely. So you might have seen before this particular piece. Good, we're getting nods. The first time that I demoed this to people, huh? But yes, this piece done the Autumn-Winter 2009 collection, The Horn of Plenty. This particular piece is made of black duck feathers. I adore how this is kind of shaped. The silhouette of the really, really wide hips and how that matches the shoulders. The really kind of like, I would say, iconic facial makeup that's like blanched white with a really overdrawn lips and so on and so forth. Really provocative at the time. But while you may have seen this piece, you might not necessarily have seen the entire collection before. The entire collection is fascinating. I will talk a little bit later about where you can watch various runways if you haven't seen full collections. This one is actually just available on YouTube to watch. But it was actually even really fascinating for me to see the full lineup, which I hadn't seen before, and was really fascinated by how, even though all of these different outfits are actually really different from each other, there is still a strong thematic through line in various ways. We look at, for example, really obviously, the makeup all of all these models are done is in the same way, even though the colors of stuff like the lips are different. Even comparing this first one to the second, the Shea in Hat Fascinator, and then from the second to the third are made of the same material, but the first to the third is the same color scheme and pattern, and the idea that you can kind of have a really long line there. I think this is a collection of about 30 different outfits, and you can pick any two of them and put them next to each other and be like, oh, these are related. That interesting part of our brains that's really good at pattern recognition and how you can get a bunch of outfits that feel really, really different from each other and yet still in the same world is something that I think is really interesting. In particular, runways have this special advantage of the fact that usually on a runway models are set out one after the other, so we have the time for one to kind of come out, go to the end, pose and come back. We see with our eyes, we notice all of the patterns, the curves and swerves, the color schemes. And then as the second one comes in, we're immediately tuned to being like, okay, so what does this one mean in context of the one previous? As I say, our brains are really good at pattern recognition when we establish a pattern. And that gives us a really good opportunity with runway looks to do this kind of storytelling and see, let people make connections between different looks together. Usually, a runway collection will have, especially when we're talking about high fashion, will have a particular concept in mind, and that concept will be explained over the course of those outfits. This can be really obvious, for example, the idea of clothes at the start that looked like things you could wear during the day in the park to an evening dress at night, and the color scheme going from light to dark, and it's like, oh, this is the adventures of a fashionable young woman from day to night, which would be very obvious, maybe a bit blasé, but you get the idea. Sometimes those themes can be really abstract or really personal to the designer at hand, and so those themes are a little bit subtle, but actually having a storytelling idea in mind from jump can really help also in the process of curation. If you're going in being like, I just want to make a bunch of pretty outfits, how many pretty outfits are you making? If you actually have that story in mind and how that progresses, then you can actually keep a really hard line on how you can tell a story in as many or a few outfits in particular. I specifically wanted to go and highlight Robert One as a very current fashion designer, currently London established but born in Hong Kong. He's had a fashion atelier since I think 2014, and I would consider him to be the current day kind of high concept fashion runway artist in the same way that McQueen or Jean-Paul Gaultier were previously. In particular, he has a really, he's really clearly inspired by like thriller mysteries and like body horror, which I think is really provocative. You can kind of see, it's maybe a little blown out, but you can probably just about see this kind of like bridal outfit on the far right and how it's been burned at all the hems, edges. This particular piece here has a whole bunch of cutouts, like she's been shot a bunch of times, and there's just like little gaps of feathers of blood red coming out in place of itself. Lots of additional hands or additional heads, almost like mannequins floating behind the models as they're walking. Really, really inspired by that kind of ominous sense, this really kind of like a thriller sense of design. In particular, for Robert One, I wanted to talk about one of his runs in autumn-winter 2024 called Time. Largely, the theme across the entire thing was about movements and the decaying of things as they move through states in life. And the last 4 looks were essentially the decaying of a human body depicted in really kind of abstract ways. So we can see here that this is a kind of representation of the skin. It's in a nude color, it's all very loose and very formless. It's actually quite difficult to see where the body anatomy is in the various folds. The head is like covered. You can just about see the nose of the model here, and that is actually a hat.
Oh.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
Damn. And then, as the body decays, the skin strips away, and we see the musculature underneath. All that shit is hand-beaded. I know, right?
It's fucking beads.
Yeah, and now I really should have actually put this in my notes so I would actually be able to fact check myself. There's a specific piece of like film costuming of like, I want to say a Dracula movie where there's the Dracula is in armor that looks like blood.
Yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula, like Coppola.
Yeah, and it very much reminds me of that, and I'm definitely sure that he was inspired by that kind of armor piece as well. Then the musculature on the body rots away, and we are left with the bones underneath, which I find genuinely quite comical. And I think that's intentional. The fact that this is so dramatic and so serious, replaced with something that you could very cruelly say Party City in energy, is actually quite fun. But even then, when you kind of stay and look at it, the detail, how we see some kind of almost skeletal fingers sitting underneath the peplum there.
Hands are in the pocket.
Yes, that her actual hands and the hands of the skeleton are separate. So even when it's kind of it looks a bit comical or a bit straightforward, there's still a lot of detail there. The doubling up of the arms is a thing that's very Robert I.
Can you imagine being that model and seeing everything with beautiful going haunting in front of you?
And then just being like, spooky, scary skeleton. And then even when the bones rot away, when the ossuary is cleaned out, only the soul remains. This actually broke containment. I generally saw this around on Instagram entirely contextuously from the rest of another fashionista, hello. Entirely contextuously without context from the rest of the runway. But actually, I really love that this is actually her natural hands, that she just has that elegance and that form, even after having seen all these others that mess with proportions. Just genuinely like gorgeous. But on top of seeing the item in solo context and being like, damn, look at the train behind her, seeing it in context of the entire piece, I think genuinely makes it really stronger. And then even instances like if I saw this on its own, I would be like, high fashion can be silly sometimes. But seeing it in the wider context and be like, high fashion can be silly sometimes, but it's done on purpose for texture and like, So we've established what haute couture is, and examples of a very obvious maybe example of high fashion storytelling. Let's look at some games and anime that have good fashion storytelling. I know why you sickos are here. To kind of bring up front, having gotten really into the idea of like looking at fashion runways, was initially just for kind of like character design inspiration, and then looking at the full context of the runways, it's like, oh, there are probably already ensemble cast members that are fashion inspired and try to use this theory in mind. And then in my initial thought, it's like, oh, there's stuff like Sailor Moon and so on and so forth, but uniform is, I think, different from what I mean here. Uniforms have a very specific context to them. And the idea of an entire group of people being fashionable only when they are entirely unified in a specific thing is incredibly fascist, actually, if I want to be super real with you. And even in for Sailor Moon, all of these divas are in their casual time wearing couture. I love that Sailor Saturn has the money to wear Mugler. She's like, what, 15? Like, who's bankrolling her? But when they are actually all designed to be together as a unit, they're all in uniform. Yes, there are variations to the color, some of them have different types of shoulder pads and so on and so forth, so you can tell them apart by silhouette, but their kind of individual storytelling is reduced for the idea that they are operating as a unit. They are pretty soldier Sailor Moon for a reason.
I mean, Sailor Saturn's dad was a mad scientist who had like a whole big project.
Oh, so it's blood money. There we go. Thank you for the fact check. I appreciate it. What I do want to talk to you is about a game I'm actually never going to fucking play ever, called Deadlock. Sitting on this, like crossing my legs, like this corset isn't making this a time. So after I finished university and I didn't have any jobs lined up and I had nothing to do but day drink and play video games, I played a lot of League of Legends. Bad fucking time, who cheered? But as a result, I could not play another MOBA. It's not happening. And I've maybe played 2 shooters in my life. So the idea that Valve decided to make a game that is both a MOBA and a third-person shooter, nah. However, every single time I see a screenshot or footage from this game, I'm like, oh my god, it's so pretty though. What if I played it? What if I played it? It'd be incredibly miserable. Deadlock
it is free.
That doesn't matter. There are many games on mobile that you can play for free that will ruin your life. I don't need to do it also on a thing where people can call me the F slur. But yes, Deadlock as a game is about a bunch of occult characters in 1949 running around the city to summon elder gods. Depending on what side you're on, it's the natural one or the spiky or spear one. And all of the character design really is taking cues from all of the existing hero shooters we know. They're looking at Overwatch, they're looking at Marvel Rivals, they're definitely looking at Genshin Impact, and being like, these fashions across this are actually quite basic, but we're going to take these character design cues and have a character with a lot of appeal, but also really, really tie it to the time and place that this is set in, and then also put them in context with each other. In fact, one of the things that stood out to me is that you can look at pretty much any given character and kind of tell what class or role they have within the society of the setting. So, for example, these are a handful of our kind of upper class characters. We stand this woman. I aspire to be this woman. She's a career murderer. I aspire to be this woman. But yes, even across this, we can kind of see that all of these upper class characters really deal in quite saturated colors. Even Dynamo in the bright yellow trousers, Paige in the green, and so on and so forth. They're also very shapy. We've moved beyond the idea of character design 101. We know what shape language is, but also the fact that these are using geometry quite heavily in multiple places across their designs. We see the really round glasses that are stark white in contrast to the darkness of her skin tone, so we definitely can see them at a distance. The kind of really padded shoulders, so she looks like a murderous Dorito. Even this round lad, so on and so forth. Actually, even in the really fine details, Apollo is like a demon who's also a fencer, so he's in his fencing gear, and the padding of the, again, the contrast on this is so low, I'm so sorry. The padding of the trousers in like this crisscross diamond pattern, and is all quite clean and precise. All of the hardware that they're wearing, which is what you call metal detailing on outfits and so on and so forth, is in gold and is also quite geometric. In fact, I find it quite funny that there are 3 separate characters who are all high class and are wearing all wearing gold round-rimmed glasses as a tiny shared detail between them all, or maybe they've only seen one pair of glasses ever, who's to say? Those kind of things that they are clear. Oh, and they also take ideas from traditional suiting from the period. Even though even though 2 of the characters here are femme-presenting, we still see the classic idea that they're wearing an overcoat with a white shirt underneath. She's wearing a full cummerbund. Even Dynamo here, again, contrast you can't quite see, but he's wearing like a professor-style tweed check jacket. So there's lots of ideas of kind of classic bespoke tailoring. To compare, the kind of low-class and working-class characters in the setting are immediately monstrous. which is interesting. I don't know what Valve is trying to say by all working class people are monsters. Okay, damn. I know that there's probably wider lore reasons or whatever. I refuse to read. But we see in you can never make me read lore of a game. How dare you? These characters are also already working in very much, thank you very much, in much more organic shapes. Being hydrated is fashionable. Yes. Much more rounded shapes, much more organic shapes. While they still have some pops of color on them, because this is a video game where there's a shooter and you see a silhouette in the distance being, they're shooting at me, who is it? So you still need to tell who they are by kind of pops of color, but it is much more enshrouded in a desaturated palette. They're a lot more body confident, actually. They have a lot more skin showing across the board. So, a little bit of audience participation in mind. We've seen what the kind of high-class characters and the working-class characters are. What do we feel is the deal with this guy, Pocket, with our ideas in hand? Somebody, yes?
Trust fund.
So what I want to ask is, what do you think this guy's like background and circumstances and why? So we'll go with trust funds.
Oh, why? Trust
and
funds.
yeah, I want to know why.
I don't know, Batman adjacent? I'm unsure why.
Sure. We have an idea. Yeah.
I think he might be from a high-class background, but he might have switched sides, or like fallen from grace or something like that.
Is there anything about the outfit that explains that to you? One person at a time, sorry.
Yeah, because he has this well-tailored coat, but it's kind of like rugged, so it's kind of like it's his past, but not his present.
That's a really, really good answer. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Our friend Pocket here is somebody who is the heir to a manufacturing arms manufacturing company, dodged an assassination attempt and is now undercover, very specifically. And we can see that we are taking some of the cues from the kind of working class characters. We have this much more drab coat. It's still a brighter shade of green than some of the other things that they're wearing and so forth. And it's all very tattered. But unlike those very shapy, round characters, it's actually quite an angular, tattered jacket in comparison. Even then, he still cannot let go of the person he was previously, because even with all of that, he's still wearing tailored trousers with the pleat down the middle and folded. He's still got a fucking sweater vest on. And he's wearing his ascot. He may have like untucked his shirt and his ascot is slightly askew, but he clearly can't let himself be actually untidy. So there's such like poverty tourism of the energy of this character. But I really do love that, like, even I as somebody who was like looking at all the casts of characters and seeing those previous ones I showed you, and I looked at Pocket, it's like, oh, I can already specifically tell what his deal is in the context of everybody else and see how he fits in with the wider world, because how he's that bridging gap between those two worlds. To highlight a couple of other high fashion storytelling highlights, not in as much detail, but just ones that I'm like, oh yes, I have to talk about these. Metaphor Refantasio. Ooh, this game, went through a period of burnout a year or so ago, and it was kind of like, I'm just going to spend the entirety of my winter playing one video game and nothing else. And I chose this one, and damn, that was a good decision. For those who do not know, Metaphor Refantasio is made by the Persona people, but unlike Persona, which is an urban fantasy and set in the current day, Metaphor is a high fantasy game. Specifically, quite literally a Dungeons and Dragons-y kind of vibe, but there's a lot of discussion in the narrative about what the future could be and what a utopia could look like. And when the main character over here is reading a book about utopia, and we see modern cities and so on and so forth. So throughout, there's lots of combinations of what is fantasy and what is our reality, and how those two can overlay with each other. The character designer, Shigenori Sorajima, really was inspired by a particular decade of fashion, I'm sure you can guess. And that level of 60s fashion integrated into the characters, not only still keeping some of the aspects and silhouettes of high fantasy, we still have swords, we still have plates of armor, but those details are still quite seamlessly, I would say, integrated. These characters I've put up here are also in the order of appearance in the game. We see our hero protagonist, I think his canonical name in English is Will. He has a very monochrome outfit, so it's quite difficult to place him and be like, oh, this could make sense in a fantasy game, sure, why not? But even then, when you kind of look at the pieces individually, the kind of like mod-style clothes of that period are very, very evident in him. I love his little spat booties. And then we meet this kind of spy character, Juna, who is just in the most psychedelic dress ever, with the red heels and orange stockings. And she's a spy because she's got leather straps on. You can tell, ooh. Moving on to Eutha, who is a... I guess Welsh Pacific Islander. All of the voice actors here are like British voice actors, and they do a really, really good job of regionality. There's nothing to do with fashion. It's just really cool. Play Metaphor Fantasia. I adore her like geometric print shawl that she wears. A lot of the people from her island are wearing these specific types of patterns that also evoke the idea of stuff like African wax print, but in a different context, but also sits within the 60s theming we have here. And then Basilio, the 5th Beatles member, who shows up, this game is over a year old, and I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but it's fine, shows up in the narrative a handful of times before he joins your party. And compared to the riots of colour you meet on the way in, he's quite drab, so you don't look at him and be like, oh, he's going to be part of the squad. But eventually, when he makes his actually way into the party, you see him a lot more and have much time to take in his outfit, his fucking flares, his fucking wrinkle pickers, the way that there are cutouts at the base of his blazer to suggest the kind of dramatic flair you would get in like a French cape, but it's still tailoring, that he's got his like a Fred Scooby-Doo ascot going, no shirt, titties are just out.
Is he a catboy or is it
No, he is literally a catboy. He's also the barbarian of the team, so him actually being shirtless makes sense to the wider understanding of what barbarians are supposed to look like. Make it fashion. I love Basilio, best boy. Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh man. Tetsuya Nomura, as both a character designer and a director, has been obsessed with street fashion for basically his entire career, back from when he directed The Bouncer, as a guy who's just full kind of street chains and hard wearing and patterned, like almost like motorcycle gear style outfits. To all of the belts and zippers and so on and so forth that he's known on for Final Fantasy 4, 8, and 10, is specifically trying to evoke the kind of hardware of those metal aspects of those belts, of those zippers that were in contemporary clothing, right down to around 2006, doing The World Ends With You, which is a game that I needed to play when I was 16, that is literally about how fashion can be your JRPG armor to fight bad vibes. He is obsessed with clothes and how they actually integrate to communities of people. Kingdom Hearts as a franchise has run for over 15 years or so, and those characters in those narratives have evolved over time. Largely, they sat in the early era of being specifically inspired by Disney, Sora with the big-ass boots, trying to look like Mickey Mouse's shoes and so forth. But over time, as I guess Nomura got more control over the narrative, and Disney was like, fuck it, do what you want. He was able to kind of take some creative control over what the characters wore. These 3 characters, including Axel, who was previously a villain in the other games, are part of a team who are the Guardians of Light, to kind of establish a bridge of the fact that they are all people who work together. He changed all their outfits to include plaid as a pattern in their outfits. Even in really teeny tiny ways, again, I'm so sorry for the terrible color contrast of the projector. On Sora's lapels over here are black and red plaid. So it's even in a teeny tiny way, but it's across the entire board. And it's quite cool that he's managed to integrate a fashion detail that you don't even really, it's never directly highlighted, and you wouldn't notice unless they were all in the room with each other, and it's near the end of the game that they're all standing together as a unit. You get like, oh, they make sense as a unit. A fun fact, as I was kind of putting together the research for this, I was like, oh, well, the plaid was done to make them contemporary for 2016, but what about fashion in 2016 inspired plaids as a thing for people to care about? And it was like the fad of like a lumberjack core style of like plaid on like overshirts and stuff. And it's like, oh, so where did that come from? Ooh, there we go. I mean, no, it being done works just as fine. Yeah, the lights off works. I'm radiant enough where you can see me anyway. That is so much better. Fuck. But yes, I was kind of like, oh, let me do some research and see how plaid came to be part of our just general street consumer wardrobe. And it turns out, ready-to-wear collections in 2010, about 4 different fashion brands all included plaid as part of their kind of main theming in their lineup independently of each other, and then that became a trend after the fact, which then filtered into all of us wearing lumberjack plaid, which then filtered into these 4 characters wearing it. And it makes me think of, for probably most of you who've seen The Devil Wears Prada, where Miranda Priestley goes on that big monologue about, oh, it's not blue, it's azure, cerulean, she says, yes. And then goes on the full story of like the fashion runways that took cerulean into popularity, which then filtered it to being generally available, which then filtered into the discount rack that you bought and now you're wearing it and think that you're unique. Yes, but also there's a bunch of history behind it that is actually part of the wider fashion involved. We have another kind of famous auteur creator after Nomura who's super well known for including fashion in their work. Any guesses?
What's his name with Vogue Italia?
Good guess, but we have Jonas Pizarro. Yes. Araki has been heavily involved in fashion across his entire career, from the key splash art in his manga being posed in ways that mirror photography in Vogue, to one of his protagonists, Jolene from Part 6, doing an entire Gucci collab. Fashion has been a very, very large part of this stuff. But I wanted to specifically highlight Part 5, Golden Wind, as one that takes place across Italy. And he combines the idea of both Milan in Italy being one of the big fashion capitals of the world alongside London and Paris, but also because this is kind of a gangster narrative and the idea of Italian gangsters being in very elaborate, expensive suits. All of these twunks here take the idea of a suit and then just kind of do whatever the fuck they want with it. And it's so cool. You can look at it and see the kind of individual details where the suiting idea is in. We get pleated trousers, we get ties, we get like shirt buttonings, but they're all worn in entirely different ways, which is literally cutting holes in our suits. The idea that the suit tailoring isn't sacred to these people because they're rebels and can do and fight with psychic like monsters. To the idea that they are all quite body confident as well, actually. They have all kind of altered their style of suiting specifically to show more skin. Panna Cotta must be so fucking cold. I guess Milan's relatively warm, but like, damn. The idea of it being like a summer suiting wearing and this bitch out here in sandals, specifically.
Oh my god.
You know? Exactly.
Pointed toe sandals.
That they all take the rules and then pull the rules like taffy to make themselves feel unique. But as a collection, you're like, oh yes, they are Italian fashionistas. Still makes sense. So we've gone through a handful of different fashion ideas and broken down what makes their outfits connect with each other. But I want to know if y'all are fashion detectives. I'm going to explain another piece of character design work that was done for a project, and then I'm going to show you some pictures and see if you can kind of connect the dots on how they are tied up. You might not have expected this particular game to care about fashion at all. Magic the Gathering has some interesting things about fashion. For those who do not know, Magic the Gathering takes place on lots of different worlds or planes. And there is a very popular one called Ravnica, which is a planet that is one big city. And on the city, in the city, there are 10 different guilds that are all doing various subterfuges and at war with each other and so on and so forth. And each of those 10 guilds has 2 colors of the 5 in Magic the Gathering that represent themselves. This is House Demir, who are the Blue-Black Guild. They are spies and assassins and informants. They also run the postal service. I wonder why. And in their initial outing, there was a whole to-do about how to show that they were spies, but also make it unclear that they were part of the guild, because they're supposed to be operating in stealth. Then when they returned to the world in around 2012, returned to the game in around 2012, the designers were like, okay, we're going to go and revisit all of these different guilds and write new design documents to really accentuate how they wear their clothes. So then when we commission artists, we can give them a style bible of all the kind of colors, materials, and objects that they wear, and then without us having to kind of babysit them, they can make characters that sit in that design very easily. What they came up with for House Demir is that they all specifically do not wear their insignia, which is this little spider wing, this little insect, 6-legged eye thing, because that would obviously be too obvious if they were wearing their logo as their, well, of course you're the spy, damn. So instead, they found different ways of evoking that logo in their outfits. In particular, finding sets of 3s across things like straps or shoulder pads or bow, like giving things that suggest the idea of like a rib cages. Also, because they are on sneaking missions, they are wearing tight-fitting clothing and so on and so forth. This particular plane is like a historical fantasy. It's inspired by historical Prague. So they're not going to be in like solid snake, like optical camo, but instead they're wearing really tight-fitting leather. They've got the kind of trench coat vibe going on. With all of that in mind, I'm going to go and show some card art from Magic the Gathering. These are all characters that are blue and black aligned, and you're going to tell me whether they are a member of House Demir and why. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
All right, we're going to start with question 1. Dana, can somebody go and tell me whether this character is a member of House Demir and why?
Belt buckle.
Absolutely. Since you're, this is a class. We have to put our hand up in class. But since you yelled out first, go and tell me why you think that this is a character from House Demir.
Belt buckles. Previous character had like 12 belt buckles. This one has only 3. It's the rule of 3s, but it's just belt buckles.
Okay.
And lots of things are in trees. There is like 3 colors as well.
You had your hand up as well. Any other additional
It
details?
was on the tunic. It's got three layers.
Yeah. The triple lapel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Over on the back. Hi.
Got all the sharp points as well.
Yes. She very spiky. Once more.
So you also have the sort of, it's reflecting the legs of the guild.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Excellent answers as I work my way back. This is indeed a character from House Demir. This is a spell rather than a character. I fucking love her triple collar trench coat. I've not seen that in real life. I want one so bad. Absolutely. She's got the triple belt buckles, the triple collar, almost the way that she's positioned her hand, where she's got 3 fingers kind of sticking up front. It's really, really obvious. Even her little earpiece is all very spiky. All right, round 2. Da-dum. Is this a character from House Demir?
No.
Okay, and I want to know why. Let's have a hand up with somebody that's rock around here. Ah, yes, the secret ending from Silent Hill 2. Hello. Tell me, why do you not think that this is a character from House Demir?
Far too many colors.
Okay, yeah.
We've also got a very garish, very obvious headpiece that is not sneaky in any way. We do not have the rule of 3s, and we are very sort of almost nature-y shapes everywhere.
Yeah. Nice, thank you. Well, I am happy to tell you that this is indeed not a character from House Demir. This is from a plane called Ikoria, which is about giant monsters and the people that tame them. Hence the little beastie over here. While she is clearly in the right materials of wearing a lot of leather, and she's very spiky, these spikes aren't in any particular sets of three. They're all kind of wild and untamed and so on and so forth. She's also got much more of a kind of Indiana Jones Ranger kind of vibe going on with the whip at the hip. Even though this is also shares some of the color schemes with before, because it's useful to have the colors of the card mechanically match the colors in the art. Sometimes people really do complain when the colors of the art don't match what the card's color identity is, so that's clearly something they have to pay attention to. Yes, not a member of House Demir at all. A trickier one for round 3. Is this a character from House Demir, and why do you think it is or not? Hands, please. In the front.
I'm gonna say no.
Tell me why.
So there's spiky, but it's not in threes, and it's also there's not anything going on around the rib area either. The shapes there are very vertical rather than kind of horizontally ribby.
Nice. We have another person behind you as well with a wig all through here. There we go. That was caught on the wall. Tell me.
It's not tight fitting, it's all flowy and loose and more noble vibes.
Interesting. No, absolutely. Oh, that was somebody recording. I'm so sorry. That would probably be a piece of horrendous camera shake as I wiggled past. I did not notice. You also get to see my ass, I guess. That's great. It's a nice ass. This is indeed not a member of House Demir. This is from a plane called New Capenna, which has a kind of like 1920s mobster theme. It's interesting because this faction is still about espionage and information control. So he's got like the magical elements of like, ooh, I'm magically pilling information. But we see that he's actually quite ostentatious as well. He's in the right materials. He's in a trench coat, but no self-respecting spy is going to be wearing this much gold. Last one, round 4. Denim. Is this character a member of House Demir, and why? Yeah. Who's gonna explain to? I'm seeing a no. Tell me why.
I think it just seems a bit too spiky, a bit too out there. It's not,
It's too ostentatious for these guys. Yeah. Any other thoughts from the audience? Yes, wiggling in oh so slightly. Excuse me.
I'd say it's
I love your jacket.
I'd say the fact that there's so much skin on show when the scene have always been very head to toe covered. And that seems a bit...
She's got the body confidence going on. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Ooh, an interesting attention to detail. Good call. I'm not going to just yell.
The rule of 3 does apply on the collar, the shoulder pads, and the arm.
Absolutely. Okay. No, you didn't. Indeed, this character here is actually a member of House Demir. She may not be a human, but they still have managed to get her in the correct fit. How the fuck did they get fishnets this small? She's sitting on a book and holding her hand over a candle like she's tiny. But yes, indeed, she's having the same kind of spiky earpiece as the first character that we saw. Even the weapon that she's carrying evokes the kind of spidery legs of the logo and so on.
Maybe it's like spider silk fishnets.
Spider silk fishnets. Excellent. Good. So, we've more or less reached the end of our presentation. I've not looked at the time. I refuse to. But what have we taken away from this? Go look at some fucking fashion runways. It's one of those things that it's like, the algorithm will tell me about it. But genuinely, there's actually a whole bunch of websites that just collect these. These days, if you happen to know the name of the designer, you could probably go into YouTube and type in the designer, the year, and the runway and get a video. Even historical ones, almost all of Alexander McQueen's early work is available just to be able to watch. But if you're looking for some places to start, Robert One, as mentioned, a lot of his collections are really contemporary, made in the last 2 or so years. and I would say are really provocative and fascinating. Again, if you're into the idea of connecting fashion and horror or beautiful things and scary things, I'd strongly recommend. Schiaparelli, which is how you pronounce that apparently, is an interesting other side of things. Schiaparelli is really experimental, but also super duper luxury. And not in just a way of oh, well, rich people will buy anything if it's expensive, even if it looks like shit, which is true. They have this really interesting idea of applying organic shape language into things, like a body harness that looks like tree roots that are spidering over a torso and things like that, but made of gold. All that kind of high fantasy opulence, like elves would wear Schiaparelli.
Sweet.
Alexander McQueen, particularly a lot of his work from the 90s and 2000s, he unfortunately passed away in 2010. So the one that I showed earlier, The Horn of Plenty, I think is his penultimate collection where he directed. The house still exists and has other designers who have succeeded him. The current designer is not very good. Not very good. But a lot of the classic work is really, really good. I would say that he's one of the big icons of what British high fashion looks like. There's others that are also contemporary to him, but I would say that he really kind of, people still make outfits that reference the work that he did back then as kind of a core inspiration. So he's very much a genre setter. Oswald Boateng is one of my favorite fashion designers. He doesn't do runway. He's not really a high concept person, but he's a Savile Row tailor. So he kind of takes the kind of style of London tradition of suits. The fact that different countries have different approaches to what tailoring is actually really fascinating, but it's a topic for a different panel. But is also really inspired by African nations and their history of fabric usage. A lot of the style of African wax print fabric shows up in his tailoring. Last year at the Met Gala, the theme was Black Dandyism, and he had an entire suite of about 20 or so different people from the kind of media and creative industry in his suits, including Shiti Gatwa, the current doctor, and all of them were astounding. I would love to wear one of his suits one day if I made that kind of money. If the idea, and understandably so, this isn't a shade or a criticism, the idea of actually doing that kind of hardline research and just kind of watching through a bunch of fashion shows or going to Now Fashion or Tag Walk and just picking a show at random and scrolling through sounds like a lot of work, and it is. John M. Villa is somebody who previously has a heavy history in art history, but currently does fashion reporting, has a whole bunch of short form, definitely on TikTok, oh my god, you can tell I'm tired. Definitely on TikTok and Instagram, but I'm pretty sure he's got his stuff on YouTube as well. That is essentially really fast breakdowns of both runways, what people tend to wear at red carpets, at films and stuff like that, but also does seasons of covering international fashion. If you want to know what North African high fashion looks like, that guy covers it, and covers it really, really well, in really, really good detail. I would say that now that you know how the sausage is made, taking a look at your favorite pieces of media or media that you're going to watch in the future and then being actually, do they make them an ensemble cast or are they just putting them in colours and theme colours of each other? Is actually a really fascinating project to do, especially if you're not necessarily looking oh, the show is famous for being fashionable, just a thing with a cast you like, and then looking at all of them next to each other and seeing what makes them the same and what makes them different is a really, really useful exercise, I think. I am the kind of person that whenever I read a lot of comic books as of late, and whenever I see interesting outfits or lights up to things, I take screenshots and I keep a little folder with all of the fascinating color schemes and outfits I do. I suppose this is what Pinterest is for, but Pinterest is also full of AI now, so just store it on your fucking phone, it's fine. And lastly, if you're the kind of people who do tabletop RPGs or design OCs for comics and things like that, this is a really useful thing to bear in mind. We have so many ways of giving individuals a sense of character, and that's usually through how they're written, but actually finding ways to tie their clothing together, even if they are they're not consciously getting dressed to dress like their friends. Or maybe they are, and that's what the story's about. But if you can put a cast of characters together and know that they are a cast of characters together and not just because you drew them, I think that is a really, really strong way of you defining how they feel. As somebody who does tabletop RPG stuff a lot, I am always a big advocate of designing characters in conjunction with the other people at the table, not just because we can have mechanical or narrative ideas of how they're linked together. But I think there's something really powerful or fascinating in the idea of looking at the little blorbos my friends have made and then designing my character that really complements them. I think that's such a way of tying them together and making them feel like a unit, rather than you all meet in a pub and you don't know why you're there. That is pretty much my panel. To do some self-shilling before you all go away and drink heavily. I mentioned that I'm a tabletop RPG designer. If you're interested in the conjunction of fashion and tabletop RPGs, I have my first big, actually picked up by a publisher, and it's going to be a real fucking book in the city of Essex. Really, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is about found families of psychics forming houses like ballroom houses. It's very intentional. And it's about the idea of what it means to create a community and protect it from people that would do it harm. Or it can be really high energy shonen anime battles. It's up to you, really. It can be both.
Both are good.
Yeah, both is good. Both is good. If you are interested in giving it a whirl, the pre-release rules are available for free via that link. And even though it is kickstarting in September, my publisher has been lightly shaking me by the shoulders and telling me to get people to sign up to the emailing list so they know when it's live from now. So if you can do that, that'd be really good. I can tell them I did my job properly. This has been Heroes of the Runway. I have been your androgynous android late night DJ Nathan Blades. You have been all wonderful, and enjoy the rest of your con.